welcome back to Truck Talk, everyone. We're happy to see you here today. It's funny. We're getting to the point now in this show where we're ready to have some of our guests back. We've been at this long enough that some people in the industry are worth second helpings, and we're going to see that today when we visit with Mike Roth, who is the executive director of the North American Council for Freight Efficiency, and also Ken Marco, who is the sustainability senior manager at U.S. Foods. Both of them, of course, Mike is the leader of this, are involved in the Run on Less Electric Depot program. This is a program that is looking at sort of a truth and dare, if you will, for electric trucks, how they're charged, and what we can learn and what we need to learn about it. We'll be talking with both of them shortly. But first, a few headlines for you. The Proterra bankruptcy after hours on Monday was a big shock to a lot of people. On Tuesday, most of the shareholders headed for the exits, 88% drop in the stock price. This afternoon, it's around 15 cents. Basically, we're learning now from filings that Proterra put in with the SEC that the company is going to not even fight its delisting from NASDAQ on the 17th of August. So I guess the advice here is if you still have any Proterra shares, you may want to just take your loss and get out now. Proterra, for its part, hopes to stay in business and continue to supply customers and pay them on a going forward basis. But what's going to happen there, of course, is that all the debt that they have stacked up right now will sort of be frozen in the bankruptcy process. A couple of those customers, of course, are Daimler Truck North America, which its Freightliner custom chassis you see on the screen here uses the Proterra batteries for the MT50E, as well as over at Nikola, the new fuel cell truck uses Proterra battery packs as well. So they're both, expecting to continue to get product from Proterra, but that remains to be seen. Hopefully that'll work out. For Nikola, it's hugely important because they've already been through their own trouble with batteries, having acquired and now liquidating Romeo Power, another battery maker that just ran into hard times. So with those two in the bag, we also want to talk for a moment about Hyliion. Proterra, Workhorse, and Hyzon all hinted at pretty desperate actions to stay in business this week. And then we get Hyliion today, which reported that its cash cushion is actually in pretty good shape. They ended the second quarter with $354 million of total available funds, both long-term, short-term, and investments in cash. It doesn't mean that things are going great there because, they've had some delays, they've had price increases, supply disruptions, a number of other things, but they're still planning to put out 30 of their Hypertruck ERX models this year to customers. They have already gotten their NHTSA sign-off for Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards. They're waiting for CARB out in California and for the EPA to give them the all clear to go ahead and sell trucks. Interesting on the call today, though, that CFO said, we don't have to go fast. It's not for the best of us to go fast, and so we'll take this as it comes. And one of the key things for Hyliion will be to see how the long-term testing with customers goes here this quarter or next quarter to see just what kind of orders that actually generates. Okay, so let's welcome today's guest. Mike Roth gets around to industry events as much as anyone. I don't think I've been to one where I haven't seen Mike, and he's familiar to most of this audience. Mike has led the North American Council for Freight Efficiency, in collaboration with RMI, formerly the Rocky Mountain Institute, and helping fleets save money and helping the environment through weight savings, powertrain changes, and specifically the Run on Less program. Ken Marco leads sustainability efforts at U.S. Foods, which is participating in the latest Run on Less Electric Depot program. Gentlemen, thank you for being here today.
Yeah, it's good to be here and good to see you again, Alan. And I'm happy to bring Ken along. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, Ken, thank you. Yeah.
Great, Alan.
Great to see you both.
Great to be here as well. It's always a pleasure to be on the panel with Mike.
Well, Mike, you know a lot about panels. We know that. I've been to more than one or two of yours. But this is your event, Mike. I mean, this is, we get into Run on Less Electric Depot, and we've written a little bit about it at FreightWaves, but I think this is more of an opportunity to let the audience hear a little bit more about it. And when you were on with us in March, we touched on the subject a little bit, but I wondered if you would just kind of take us through this latest program, what you're trying to accomplish, and what you've seen so far.
Yeah, so electric trucks. Wow, 5, 6 years ago, I'd have thought it would never happen, and here we are in the middle of it. And in 2021, with the run, we focused on a truck, one truck at each site. We're trying to, understand, can these electric trucks do their job? And then we had 13 trucks in 2021 and run on less electric, and we found that they can. But the issue then becomes, all right, well, maybe myself, I can make one great hamburger, but can I go make open a hamburger restaurant? Probably not. So that's a whole different game when you start to scale these electric trucks. So we came up with the idea of Run on Less Electric Depot. And what this is, we sought to find places, locations, warehouses, manufacturing plants, and so forth, that are scaling electric trucks now here in 2023. So we found 10. US Foods is one of them. We have Schneider and Pepsi and Penske and others, and they are all participating. We went out and visited all 10 during from June 5th to July 16th, interviewed 122 people at these 10 sites, and learned a ton about what it takes to go from, basically zero or one electric truck to, Schneider's got 92 e-Cascadias that'll be running in September when we actually go do the measurements. Ken has 30. So this is not for the weak of heart. There's challenges here, but they're making it happen. And in many cases, they're really enjoying the trucks. Drivers love them. Maintenance people are starting to appreciate the simplicity of the trucks compared to some of the diesel powertrains. And here we go. The infrastructure is basically being put on site at the depot with these 10. So they're not talking really about public charging or other things, but it's fun to see what's really going on. And we have 4 videos that are up of the 10. Their fourth one will be up tomorrow morning, and it's exciting. Here we go. We're learning and telling the rest of the industry what we're finding.
When you went into it, Mike, what was what was sort of the rubric that you were working from? And, when you do your final report or whatever, what is it that you're looking to really show people?
Yeah, well, first of all, electric trucks aren't for every heavy duty, medium duty application right now. So what we're confirming is that it's for smaller vehicles moving up into terminal tractors that run around yards and into what we call short and medium regional haul return to base, usually day cabs. And that's where it really gets interesting, that 200 to 300, 400 mile range. We have the Tesla Semi at PepsiCo in the run, so we'll be tracking it. The video is already up. Pepsi's using that semi for up to 450 miles. So, but a lot of the available technologies, available trucks are in that 200 to 250 mile range. And, how a fleet can utilize that and take advantage of the electric truck can be challenging. So, one of the things we were really trying to figure out, and what we're seeing really interesting results is the fleets are figuring out how to operate maybe a 230-mile e-Cascadia. Let me just say, Schneider is a great example. They have 92 e-Cascadias that they're doing railroad intermodal support. And instead of the driver being out all day making their runs and coming back with their diesel truck to hand off to a second driver overnight, they're using the 92 trucks. And, it may mean that the driver returns in the middle of the day, maybe 5 hours into their hours of service, and they swap trucks. They get in a truck with that has fully charged. They drop off their truck that's less charged, and they go about more of their day. So my point there is and it's a great question you ask. We were trying to find out, were these trucks limited by their range on a single battery charge in a driver's hours of service or not? And some of the depots we're really seeing some creativity there in how they manage the routes.
Yeah, well, I know when we've talked with Daimler and you used that 230 mile range, we've talked with Daimler about that, and Volvo with its batteries on it can get 275 or 285 thereabouts. But you have to work with what you have. Now, Ken, at your shop, I think I noticed, and we're going to see a video here in a moment. I think I noticed that you have e-Cascadias as well. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, we have
Yeah.
30
So
Freightliner Cascadias on our site now, and we're operating 15 of those on a daily basis right now, and working to add additional trucks to the operation as well here in the near future.
what kind of use cases are you involved with there?
Yeah, for us, a good majority of our routes are daily delivery routes. We're delivering to the market, typically less than 200 miles per day, and we might have anywhere from 8 to 12 stops per day, delivering product to restaurants and other food providers. But what we found is that the electric vehicles are a great fit for our application because they've got the range capability that meets the route distances that we're operating on, and the drivers really like the vehicles. I've gone on ride-alongs with drivers and had many conversations with drivers, and it's been great feedback. They really like how quiet they are and the power that they have, and the fact that they get them home each day.
Yeah, I remember riding with one of the folks from NFI early on because they were an early tester, as you know, with the eCascadia. And I remember, riding it down, not quite to the port in Long Beach, but just the whole idea. He said, "Yeah, I get home and I don't smell of diesel when I get home at night," and that's so appreciated at home. Let me ask you, Ken. The whole idea of the electric trucks. What is it that you want to get out of Run on Less Electric Depot, and what have you learned so far?
Yeah, I think the Run on Less event is a great event. It demonstrates the ability of fleets that are introducing these technologies into their operations and doing it successfully, and providing an example for other fleets that want to consider these technologies for their fleets as well. So I think the things that I'm learning is that it is capable to put these trucks into the operation. I think fleets need to understand what their operation duty cycle requirements are to make sure that it's a good match. But it's something that they shouldn't be afraid of. These trucks have the capability to support a lot of different applications. As Mike said, it's not for everybody, but you just have to understand what your duty cycle is. And I think we're demonstrating it. Now, one unique thing about us is you can see on the video there, those are temporary charging stations. So that's one unique feature that we've learned. Some valuable lessons here is that it just takes a long time for the infrastructure sometimes when you're working with a utility company and trying to go through the permitting process and all. There's a time factor that affects it. So I was able to go out and obtain 5 portable or temporary charging stations to be able to support these vehicles before our permanent infrastructure is in place. We haven't installed the permanent infrastructure just yet. So we've got 5 portable chargers, and we're operating 15 of these vehicles. So we've started to learn a lot more about the data that's available with these vehicles regarding the charging and all, and also learning some valuable lessons on how to charge multiple trucks each day as well to be able to make sure we can operate them and have them ready to go out each day.
Well, and I noticed the charge point chargers there in the video, and it's interesting because, mobile charging, portable charging, a lot of these things, these stopgap measures, if you will, are pretty necessary right now. Let me ask you both, though. We're getting more and more sort of chafing, if you will, about the lack of infrastructure being available. We already have a few people that probably question, do we really need to do electric trucks? Of course, if you want to operate in California, you know the answer to that. But I guess the question is, are we looking now at public charging? And Mike, you mentioned you kind of dismissively a little bit ago. Are we looking at public charging being a big piece of this, or is it all going to be
Yeah.
behind the fence?
So there's going to be no, it's not going to be all behind a fence. There's going to be multiple ways to charge these trucks, and the great thing about this is this is going to happen in phases. Most things in life do, right? So we're going to have, we believe, and we're going to see, and I think our depot, we named it Run on Less Electric Depot because depot charging is what's first. So companies like that are in our run. Their trucks come back to base every night. And so that enables them to put the infrastructure on site. And that's really key. And, one of the things that we're learning is it doesn't have to be a charger for every truck. You can put a charger at every parking spot, pull the truck in, slow charge it, and that's a cheaper way to accomplish this. But also, you can have maybe 4 trucks for every charger. I mean, Ken's just talking here. He's right now doing 3 trucks per charger. So, in his first 15. Now that requires you to move some trucks around from time to time, maybe, or maybe the duty cycles are such that they're sequenced where they come back to the depot and can do that. But that'll definitely be first depot charging. And then what we're seeing is what we call opportunity charging. And that's, where you're out on your day and maybe you can get a customer location to put a charger in. So you're constantly going to one site and you can go there. Some people are doing opportunity charging back at their base, like I mentioned with Schneider a few minutes ago. Or there's people like the Watt EVs and others. Watt EVs in our run as a depot, even though they're a little bit different and kind of a truck stop charging as a service location. But we'll see these very focused opportunity charging places that might not be publicly available, might only be for a few fleets to use as a sort of the second area. And then we'll get these like high corridor, call it public charging. Maybe it'll be, club charging of some kind of nature where you've got to have a subscription or something. And so this will happen in phases. So we can learn one to the next. We can figure out how do we take advantage of 150, 350 megawatt charging over time at depots while we're learning what we are with public charging. Yes, we'll need public charging, not right now.
Well, tons of money. I'm sorry, Ken, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and I would agree with what Mike said. I think a lot of fleets are going to be interested in behind the fence just because it's a little bit more convenient to be able to manage the drivers and control the cost. You understand what kind of a capital investment as well as what the operational costs are. But there are a lot of operations as well where, I'll give you a U.S. Foods example where we have some shuttle yards out there where we may have anywhere from, 4 trucks up to 10 trucks or more. A lot of those are going to be a lot more difficult to add charging stations. And so I think having shared or public type charging is going to be a good opportunity. I think the other thing I would say is, with these temporary chargers, what was great for us was that it allowed us to get these trucks into service before we had the permanent charging. We didn't have to wait and park the trucks at the fence because we were able to take delivery of them sooner than the infrastructure was ready. And it gave us the ability to start training our drivers and get it and going through the change management process at the site and all as well. So.
Yeah. One of the things that I brought up the public charging is because there's so much money out there, VC money and others that are kind of chasing the infrastructure piece, whether it's for mobility or Watt EV or whoever you want to name. There's a lot of them. Terawatt comes to mind. There's a bunch of them that are looking to build things where, I don't know if it'd be a subscription based, Mike, like you suggested, but it's certainly something where, we're kind of for everybody. Yeah. And, wondering about that. Is that contemplated in what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I just said not now. I really, I'm saying not now from the standpoint is that to match Ken's point around behind the fence depot charging. Let's just get that phase going and out of the way. We will definitely need public charging. Batteries are heavy, range is limited. And so we will need, fairly fast public charging for these trucks at some point. And so those that are working on it, both, in the labs, out in prototypes, and even building some of these locations, the Watt EV location that will be in the run, they have a megawatt charger there now, waiting for trucks to be able to handle megawatt charging. We can't charge these trucks that fast yet. But they're ready to go. So I do think there's people on the very leading edge of public charging, and that's important. As the trucks start to be used and we figure out how to use them, right now these depots are starting with maybe 20% of their trucks in only the routes closest to their base. But as they go out, they're going to need that kind of charging in to be able to support the operations, not just at their site, but out in the wild, out in the public domain.
Yeah, you mentioned Tesla being in the Run on Less electric depot program, and you also mentioned 400 to 450 miles. There aren't very many trucks right now that can do that. None, actually, except for the Tesla, which I think is at 750 a kilowatt charging rate at this point. So it could presumably use a megawatt charger or something close to it. How quickly, from what you're finding now, and what is the need for getting higher power charging out there? We're working with what we've got today, but
Yeah, I mean, so the semis are used in Sacramento where they have what they call transport. So these are longer runs from bottling companies to distribution centers in the Pepsi beverages network. So they will leave and do a couple hundred miles, drop something, do another couple hundred miles, or maybe 50 miles, drop some more, come back to base. So they are doing long distances, and at Sacramento they are in many days slip seating those trucks. So those trucks come back to the base and they hook up to the Tesla chargers and they get that 750 kilowatt for maybe 45 minutes. And they were able to, fill up a lot of that big battery on the Tesla semi in, 45 minutes to be able to get back out on the road and do another 2, 3, 400 mile run. So, yes, the semis are only delivered a few. They're only at PepsiCo locations, one Frito-Lay and one beverages. And they're testing them and making them work. I mean, they are definitely a longer range vehicle that makes us all think that it can be done and that we're just getting started. This 200, 230, 250 mile range heavy duty tractor, I don't think we're going to stop there. And if you fast charge them, you can get actually more miles in a driver's hours of service than you can on the single charge.
Right. Well, and the 400 miles, let's just call it 400, that the Tesla can do right now sort of gets us into the question that I have to ask you, even though I know it's not part of this year's event, and that is hydrogen. Is it finally time for hydrogen to make inroads into trucking? I mean, we're getting very close to having the Nikola trucks out. We've got the first of the Hyundai Exions coming into Oakland, I believe, pretty quick here. Is it hydrogen's time, or is that still sort of I don't buy it?
No, I think I think in our look at it, the battery truck, as wonderful it is, and works for many fleets like Ken's and so forth, it's going to be difficult to get into that, high weight, high distance trucking. So we do think hydrogen fuel cells will be an answer for some of those particular duty cycles. Especially when you're into team drivers or into slip seating, like we were talking about. Having said that, it'll be a matter of how much, right? So is that 5%, 20%, 30%? And so how far the battery electric truck can go with weight sizes, fast charging, durability, and so forth, because a hydrogen fuel cell truck comes with a lot of complexity that's not in a battery truck. I mean, basically, you're extending the battery range. Now, you can have a much smaller battery pack, but you have a hydrogen fuel cell on, you've got tanks, you've got a lot of cooling that you don't have in battery electric. So the trucks get more complex. A lot of discussion about green hydrogen versus other, more carbon intensive hydrogen. So a lot there, but we do think it's part of the answer. We just don't know how much of the answer. I don't know.
Gotcha.
Ken might be able to chime in a little too. He's all over this.
Yeah, I want to ask you, Ken. I can't imagine on distribution like you're doing now that hydrogen is much of a factor. But what do you think? I mean, do you see a day when that becomes part of the mix for you?
I do. But I've a good majority of our routes are going to be 200 miles or less, so I can approach those with battery electric and meet the functional need. But there are also some routes that are longer than that. We've got some areas of the country where we average over 300 miles a day with our trucks, and so in those cases we're going to have to consider other technologies. And right now there is no silver bullet. That battery electric just can't meet the needs for all of the different applications. So we've got to look at the other technologies, and I think hydrogen could have a place in it in the fleet in the future for some of the longer routes. I think for the shorter routes, battery electric is going to support us 100%.
Yeah, it's interesting this morning.
Routes, hydrogen could definitely be an opportunity.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you there, Ken. Finish up.
No.
That? Oh,
yeah, no,
I was just going to say it was interesting. Yeah, did it again.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say this morning that, Hyliion, which is doing the sort of the hybrid approach with the natural gas and electric, said that it's going to go to a day cab. They've got an issue with certifying the Cummins X12N after 2024, so they're going to go to a day cab and take the X15. Some of these other technologies, I just throw them out there. I mean, I don't know that that's a good solution or not. Guys, thank you so much for being here. It's been terrific. Mike, I wish you the best as you get this down the road, finish up in September, I guess. And Ken, thanks so much for being here.
It was a pleasure. Thanks, Alan.
Great.
Thank
All
you.
right, guys, next week, folks, special guest, really, and I think so anyway. I've known him for decades, really. But Steve Gursky, the third CEO at Nikola in the last year, will be our guest. Steve goes way back in the industry. He was, of course, instrumental in the bringing public of Nikola back in 2020. He's been through all of the bumps that have occurred, and there have been many. But now he's stepping in. The board decided when Michael Loscheller had a family issue back in Germany and resigned, that the board said, well, you know what? You're our succession plan, Steve, so go get him. We're excited to catch up with him next week and hear his plans as sort of the operations guy now, as they get ready to bring about the fuel cells. And folks, we've moved the format or the platform for Truck Tech over at all of the FreightWave shows over to YouTube. You can find us there. In fact, the whole playlist by hitting shows and then going to Truck Tech, and you can get a full playlist of all of our episodes. So we look forward to having you do that, and we hope to see you here next week. Thanks for joining.